There are journeys where the destination is everything, and then there are journeys where the road becomes the destination. Today, we're taking one of those journeys, one road, thousands of kilometers of changing landscapes, and a country that seems to reinvent itself every time you look out the window. We begin in Nairobi, a city of more than 4 million people, where traffic moves, horns speak, buildings rise, and everyone seems to be going somewhere. But somewhere beyond the last traffic lights, Kenya begins to change. The city slowly disappears behind us. Concrete becomes grass, grass becomes hills, and the noise of Nairobi gives way to something we rarely notice anymore: silence. The road stretches ahead like a line drawn across the earth, and for the first time, you realize something. Kenya is much bigger than the places we think we know. The further we drive, the higher we climb. The air becomes cooler, the landscape opens, and suddenly the Great Rift Valley appears below us. It is difficult to describe the feeling of seeing it for the first time. One moment you're driving through the highlands, the next, the earth seems to fall away. Mountains rise from the horizon, lakes sparkle in the distance, and somewhere beneath all of this, the African continent is slowly being pulled apart. Yes, the ground beneath us is changing very slowly, so slowly that nobody alive will ever see the full transformation. But the road doesn't care. It simply keeps going, down the escarpment, across the valley, past farms, villages, forests and fields. Every few kilometers, Kenya seems to change its mind. Green, brown, gold, blue, then green again. And that's when the road trip becomes something more than a journey. It becomes a lesson. Because you don't really understand Kenya by looking at a map. You understand it by crossing it, by watching the landscape change through a windscreen, by seeing mountains appear where there were none a few hours earlier, by watching the last clouds disappear behind you as the land becomes drier. Eventually, the familiar Kenya begins to disappear. The roads become quieter, the towns become smaller, the distances become longer, and you start noticing something strange. You're driving and driving and driving, and there is still no end in sight. This is where the journey begins to feel different. There are no crowds here, no line of safari vehicles, no perfect tourist viewpoint waiting around the corner. Just you, the road, and whatever happens to be waiting beyond the horizon. Sometimes it's a herd of animals, sometimes it's a camel crossing the highway as if it owns the place. And frankly, it probably thinks it does, but sometimes there's nothing, just kilometers of empty road. And somehow, that nothing becomes beautiful, because in a world that is constantly telling us to hurry, there is something strangely powerful about going nowhere quickly. You have time to look, time to think, time to notice the sky, and perhaps, for a moment, time to hear yourself. Then the landscape changes again, the green fades, the heat arrives, the horizon becomes enormous, and the road leads us toward one of the most extraordinary places in Kenya, the north. Here the country feels almost unfamiliar. The landscapes become harsher, the mountains look ancient, the distances become deceptive. A place that looks 10 minutes away can take an hour to reach, and a road that looks like it ends at the horizon somehow keeps going. This is where Kenya stops feeling like a country you're traveling through and starts feeling like a continent. There are deserts here, volcanoes, mountains, lakes, wildlife, and communities that have learned to live with a landscape that doesn't always make life easy. The road passes through places where water is more valuable than almost anything else, where a camel can mean transport, livelihood, and survival, where people understand the land not because they've studied it, but because they've lived with it. And then, after all those kilometers, Lake Turkana appears. Blue water, dry earth, volcanic mountains, a landscape that looks almost impossible. You look at it and wonder how all of this can exist in one place. But that's Kenya. Contradiction after contradiction. A desert beside a lake, a forest beside a desert, snow on a mountain in a tropical country, volcanoes beside farmland, wildlife beside cities, and somehow it all belongs to the same country. Maybe that's what makes this journey so special. It's not really about reaching Lake Turkana, it's about everything that happens between Nairobi and here. The conversations, the roadside stops, the unexpected animals, the changing weather, the wrong turns, the long silences, the moments when you wonder how far you've come and how much farther you still have to go. Because somewhere along the road, something happens. You stop counting kilometers, you stop thinking about the destination, and you begin to understand the journey. A road can take you from one place to another, but sometimes it can also take you from one version of yourself to another. You leave the city thinking you know Kenya. Then the mountains challenge you. The desert humbles you. The silence slows you down. And the people you meet remind you that there are thousands of ways to call this country home. Eventually, the sun begins to fall. The road turns gold. The mountains become silhouettes. The vehicle keeps moving. And for a moment, there is nowhere else you'd rather be. No airport, no schedule, no traffic. Just a road disappearing into the last light of the day. One road. 1,000 kilometers of stories, and somewhere beyond the horizon, another Kenya is waiting.